We remember Seventh Heaven for its innocence, warmth, and lessons about growing up. But the real lives of its stars have unfolded with tragedy, reinvention, and astonishing personal change. In 2025, some rebuilt their lives from the ground up, and some never had the happy ending their characters did. Let's find out, and you'll never look at the Camden family the same again. Stephen Collins as Reverend Eric Camden. Reverend Eric Camden, the wise, steady father of the Camden family in Seventh Heaven, 1996 to 2007, was embodied by Stephen Collins. At 49 years old, he stepped into the role as the show's spiritual and emotional compass, a man audiences trusted without hesitation. No one imagined how violently that image would shatter years later. Born October 1st, 1947, in Des Moines, Iowa, Stephen Weaver Collins lived a private life marked by marriages that revealed more turmoil than peace. His first marriage to Marjorie Weinman dissolved quietly, but his second marriage to actress Faye Grant collapsed in a storm of betrayal, legal battles, and accusations that echoed across the industry. Their daughter, Kate, became the center of a painful custody struggle that left both parents deeply wounded. His third marriage to Jenny Nagel brought a measure of calm, yet even that union carried the weight of a man trying to outrun the wreckage of his past. His health deteriorated as scandal consumed him. Years of public condemnation, emotional collapse, and relentless stress fueled severe heart problems that worsened rapidly in his final years. The isolation hollowed him out, and he withdrew from the world, his life unraveling as steadily as his body failed. With little else to anchor him, his earlier career, Star Trek, the motion picture, The Two Mrs. Grenvilles, became distant echoes rather than lifelines. Sadly, Stephen Collins died on March 27, 2023, at age 75 from heart failure, passing quietly after a decade defined by regret and failing health. His burial was private, his legacy fractured beyond repair, and his remaining net worth, about $3 million, stood as the final remnant of a life divided sharply between fame and downfall. Catherine Hicks as Annie Camden. Annie Camden, the warm, unwavering mother of the Camden household in Seventh Heaven, 1996 to 2007, was portrayed by Catherine Hicks. She was 45 years old when she brought to life the gentle matriarch whose compassion became the emotional backbone of the series. Her smile on screen felt effortless, but carrying that image for 11 seasons left its own quiet marks. Born August 6, 1951, in New York City, Catherine Mary Hicks experienced a romantic life shaped by heartbreak and healing. Her early engagement to journalist Jeff Silverman ended abruptly, leaving behind a sadness she rarely discussed. Years later, marriage to special effects artist Kevin Yagher became her sanctuary, grounding her through long filming schedules and the emotional weight of maintaining a perfect mother persona. Together they raised their daughter Katie, a constant source of strength as Hollywood's demands shifted around her. Her health never faced dramatic medical crises, but years of pressure carried their own subtler toll: chronic fatigue, mental exhaustion, and the quiet strains of aging in an unforgiving industry. But the work that defined her legacy filled this space instead. Her Emmy-nominated portrayal in Marilyn, The Untold Story, and her iconic role in Child's Play, performances that reminded audiences of her remarkable range beyond Annie Camden. Today, Catherine Hicks is 74 years old, retired, and living a peaceful life far removed from the pressures of stardom. Surrounded by family, faith, and the quiet rhythm she longed for, she finally has the stillness that her long career rarely allowed. Her net worth, about $3 million, reflects decades of steady dedication and a legacy built on warmth rather than scandal. Mackenzie Rosman as Ruthie Camden. Ruthie Camden, the mischievous, sharp-witted youngest child of the Camden family in Seventh Heaven, 1996 to 2007, was brought to screen by Mackenzie Rosman. She was just 7 years old when she stepped into the role, growing from a spirited child into a complex young teen across 202 episodes. Behind that bright smile, her real-life journey was far more fragile than audiences ever knew. Born December 28, 1989, in Charleston, South Carolina, Mackenzie Lynn Rosman built her adult life around quiet strength and devotion to family. Her long-term relationship ended, leaving her to raise her daughter, Ophelia Caitlin, as a single mother beginning in 2022. The solitude of balancing childcare with work pushed her toward reconnection, leading her to co-host Catching Up with the Camdens alongside former castmates, helping ease the loneliness of her post-child star years. However, her heaviest burdens came from emotional strain, teenage anxiety, identity pressure, and the exhausting transition from child fame to adulthood. After Seventh Heaven, she turned toward projects like Ghost Shark and The Secret Life of the American Teenager, trying to redefine herself while wrestling with the feeling that Hollywood still saw her as Little Ruthie. Charity work and equestrian competitions became her refuge in the years when acting roles felt uncertain. Now, Mackenzie Rosman is 36 years old, raising her daughter on a quiet Maryland farm while balancing acting, charity work, and her podcast. Her estimated net worth, around $2 million, comes from acting, sponsorships, and her deep involvement in the equestrian world. David Gallagher as Simon Camden. Simon Camden, the sensitive, searching son of the Camden family in Seventh Heaven, 1996 to 2006, was portrayed with striking sincerity by David Gallagher. At 11 years old, he stepped into the role, guiding Simon through childhood, adolescence, and some of the series' darkest emotional arcs across 152 episodes. But every step of that journey would later collide with the struggles of a child star growing into a man. Born February 9, 1985, in College Point, New York, David Lee Gallagher grew up surrounded by cultural dualities, Irish heritage from his father and Cuban roots from his mother. His long-term relationship matured into a stable marriage, and together they welcomed two daughters, Lily and Fern, the anchors that steadied him after years of navigating Hollywood's unpredictable demands. Yet fatherhood also arrived with the quiet pressure of reconciling who he had been on screen with who he needed to be for his children. David has no major physical illnesses recorded, but his emotional battles were far more pronounced. Leaving Seventh Heaven in 2004 to pursue college fractured the momentum of his career, triggering periods of self-doubt as he tried to escape the good boy image fans imposed on him. Darker roles in Numb Threers and The Vampire Diaries became both an artistic release and a psychological burden, forcing him to confront criticism while reshaping his identity. His continued work as the voice of Riku in Kingdom Hearts offered stability when on-camera roles fluctuated. In 2025, David Gallagher is 40 years old, a father of two, and a co-host of the Catching Up with the Camdens podcast, where he reflects on the childhood he grew up performing. His net worth, around $4 million, comes largely from decades of voice acting, film roles, and the enduring global success of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Barry Watson as Matt Camden. Matt Camden, the conflicted, idealistic eldest son of the Camden family, was embodied by Barry Watson across 145 episodes of Seventh Heaven beginning in 1996. He was 22 years old when he stepped into the role, shaping Matt into the show's moral backbone and quiet rebel. But behind the calm exterior, Watson's real life was battling storms far darker than anything written into the script. Born April 23, 1974 in Traverse City, Michigan, Michael Barrett Barry Watson rebuilt his adult life through 3 marriages, each marked by tenderness, fracture, and the exhausting search for stability. His first marriage to Laura Payne Gabriel dissolved under the pressure of early fame, and his second partnership with Tracy Hudson ended despite the joy of welcoming their sons, Oliver and Felix. It was only with Natasha Gregson Wagner, whom he married in 2014, that Watson found something close to peace. Illness struck long before he was ready. Diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in the early 2000s, Watson faced chemotherapy, debilitating fatigue, and the fear that his career and fatherhood might be slipping away from him. The battle reshaped his life, both softening and hardening him, even as he continued working in projects like Sorority Boys and later The Loudest Voice, trying to reclaim momentum that cancer had stolen thread by thread. Every appearance on screen was shadowed by what fans could not see. By 2025, Barry Watson is 51 years old, a father of 3 who has learned to anchor himself in smaller circles and quieter victories. His estimated net worth of around $1 million reflects a career interrupted by illness, rebuilt through persistence rather than luck, and held together by the work he could manage between personal upheavals. Jessica Biel as Mary Camden. Mary Camden, the athletic, stubborn, emotionally volatile second child of the Camden family, was portrayed by Jessica Biel, whose presence defined Seventh Heaven from 1996 onward. She was only 14 years old when she took on the role, becoming both a teen idol and a lightning rod for controversy as she grew out of the character the world demanded she remain. Fame lifted her fast, but backlash came just as quickly. Born March 3, 1982 in Ely, Minnesota, Jessica Claire Biel navigated a personal life that seemed charmed from afar, but was sharpened by constant scrutiny. Her marriage to Justin Timberlake in 2012 became both a sanctuary and a spectacle, with 2 sons anchoring a family that lived beneath relentless public fascination. Yet within her private world, Biel carried the weight of expectation. Her deepest wounds came from the emotional fallout of industry pressure. The backlash from her infamous Gear magazine photo shoot left lasting bruises, shaping her drive to break free through darker, bolder work. Films like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and her Emmy-nominated performance in The Sinner became attempts not just to reinvent herself, but to reclaim authority over her narrative. Today, Jessica Biel is 43 years old, balancing motherhood, acting, and producing while preparing for the upcoming Seventh Heaven reboot that she now guides from behind the camera. Her shared net worth, an estimated $250 million with Timberlake, reflects a lifetime of reinvention, resilience, and a career that rose from family drama television into international stardom. Lorenzo Brino as Sam Camden. Sam Camden, the softer, sweeter half of the Camden twins, was portrayed by Lorenzo Brino in nearly 100 episodes, beginning in 2003. He was only 5 years old when he stepped into the role, bringing innocence and warmth to a family already beloved by millions. No one watching him grow up on screen imagined how short his real life would be. Born September 21, 1998, in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles, Lorenzo Nathaniel Brino grew up alongside his 4 siblings, each navigating the strange reality of early fame as quadruplets. For Lorenzo, family was the only constant in a world that had chosen him long before he knew what choice meant. His biggest struggle was invisible. The weight of being recognized for something he had done before he formed memories. Fame at 5 faded into ordinary adolescence, leaving him suspended between 2 identities. He worked briefly on The Young and the Restless, but increasingly chose a life outside the industry, seeking normalcy that Hollywood could never give back. Sadly, Lorenzo Brino died on March 9, 2020, at just 21 years old, after a devastating single-vehicle accident in Yucaipa, California. He left behind a grieving family and a small but unforgettable legacy. His estimated net worth of $500,000 reflected not a career cut short, but a life that ended before it ever had the chance to truly begin. Nicholas Brino as David Camden. David Camden, the more mischievous, expressive twin opposite Sam, was brought to life by Nicholas Brino during the same era of Seventh Heaven, appearing in roughly 100 episodes beginning in 2003. He was also 5 years old when he stepped into the role, giving energy and humor to a character fans still remember as the Camden family's spark. What unfolded behind the scenes, however, was far heavier than his carefree on-screen persona. Born September 21, 1998, in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles, Nicholas Landon Brino shared not only DNA, but an entire childhood identity with his siblings. As a quadruplet, he lived in a home where every milestone, every opportunity, and every heartbreak was multiplied by 4. His family remained the emotional center of his life, especially after the unimaginable loss of his twin brother Lorenzo. Nicholas suffered no major illnesses, but grief became its own kind of lifelong ailment. Losing a twin is a psychological rupture few can comprehend, and the silence that followed pushed him further away from Hollywood. Aside from a small credit tied to Knots Landing, he avoided the industry, choosing instead to anchor himself in privacy and routine, far from the pressures that had shaped his earliest years. His focus shifted toward healing, mental stability, and the family who remained. In 2025, Nicholas Brino is 27 years old, living a low-profile life and investing his energy into emotional recovery and loved ones rather than fame. His estimated net worth of around $1 million reflects childhood earnings, modest investments, and a life deliberately built outside the spotlight. Tyler Hoechlin as Martin Brewer. Martin Brewer, the determined, baseball-driven teen who shook up the Camden household, was embodied by Tyler Hoechlin across 84 episodes beginning in 2003. At just 16 years old, he stepped into the role, projecting charm, conflict, and a maturity beyond his years. What seemed like a smooth rise was, in truth, a balancing act few teenagers could withstand. Born September 11th, 1987, in Corona, California, Tyler Lee Hoechlin grew up in a tightly knit family shaped by discipline, sports, and ambition. He never married, never rushed into the kind of domestic life others expected of him, instead choosing independence and navigated an industry. His early years revolved around baseball and the unspoken pressure to choose which future he would sacrifice. The greatest struggle of his youth was the tug-of-war between athletics and acting, two identities battling for ownership of the same boy. A hamstring injury ended his dream of playing professionally, hitting him with a grief athletes know all too well. Acting filled the void, launching him toward new worlds through Teen Wolf, Superman, and Lois, and his early breakout in Road to Perdition. Yet the inner conflict stayed with him, a quiet scar beneath the success. Today, Tyler Hoechlin is 38 years old, thriving in Hollywood but still protective of his private world, living life on his own terms as opportunities continue to expand. His estimated net worth of $4 million reflects years of steady work and the rare ability to reinvent himself without losing his grounding. George Stultz as Kevin Kinkirk. Kevin Kinkirk, the steady police officer whose calm presence reshaped Lucy Camden's world, was portrayed by George Stultz for 67 episodes beginning in 2002. At 27 years old, he brought to the series a mix of gentleness and authority that made Kevin one of its most unexpected anchors. But behind that composed exterior was a man rerouted by fate long before fame arrived. Born August 16, 1975 in Detroit, Michigan, George Sheehy Stultz grew up close to his younger brother Jeff, a bond strong enough to influence nearly every major turning point in his life. His path was never defined by marriage or public relationships. Instead, it revolved around the family ties that carried him through wrestling scholarships, career pivots, and the pressures of building a name in Hollywood. His loyalty to his brother shaped both the life he lived and the life he nearly lived. George's earliest hardship was a sports injury that abruptly ended his wrestling trajectory and forced him to abandon the stable future he had imagined. That loss echoed for years, shadowing his transition into acting. Though he gained visibility through Seventh Heaven, The Finder, Zoo, and the Christmas films that became his hallmark. In 2025, George Stoltz is 50 years old, maintaining a modest, selective acting career and a quiet life focused on steadiness rather than fame. His estimated net worth of $3 million reflects decades of television work, commercial campaigns, and a career built not from ambition, but from resilience and unexpected turns. Jeremy London as Chandler Hampton. Chandler Hampton, the conflicted young minister who arrived to steady the Camden world, was embodied by Jeremy London across 47 episodes beginning in 2002. He was 30 years old when he stepped into the role, blending warmth, turmoil, and a searching spirit that made Chandler both comforting and quietly haunted. What unfolded off-screen was far darker than the stories his character tried to guide others through, revealing how fragile the line between faith and personal collapse can be. Born November 7, 1972, in San Diego, Jeremy Michael London grew up amid instability, raised by a mother who moved the family 13 times in 6 years after leaving his father. His marriages reflected that same emotional turbulence, a union with Melissa Cunningham that crumbled under the weight of addiction, followed by a second marriage to Juliette Reeves that brought calmer years, but still carried the scars of his past. Through it all, fatherhood to his sons, Lyric and Wyatt, remained his only dependable anchor in a life marked by loss, including the tragic death of his younger sister Dedra in 1992. The absence of a stable foundation shadowed every choice he made as an adult. Jeremy's greatest struggle was addiction, a relentless battle that consumed much of his career and reputation. Rehab in 2008 was only the first step. Relapses, public breakdowns, and a controversial kidnapping claim in 2010 left him exposed to skepticism and harsh judgment. Appearing on Celebrity Rehab forced him to confront wounds he had numbed for decades, while roles in Mallrats and Gods and Generals became bittersweet reminders of the potential fame he once held within reach. Each attempt at recovery felt like starting over, fighting both substances and the weight of a public eager to see him fall. Now, Jeremy London is 53 years old, living a quieter, more introspective life while working each day to maintain sobriety and emotional stability. His estimated net worth of $300,000 reflects a career repeatedly interrupted by personal battles that often overshadowed his talent. And yet, in small roles, private meetings, and steady strides toward recovery, he is slowly reclaiming the pieces of a life he nearly lost. Rachel Blanchard as Roxanne Richardson. Roxanne Richardson, the determined, sharp-witted police officer who challenged Kevin and brought new energy into the Camden universe, was portrayed by Rachel Blanchard across 45 episodes beginning in 2002. She was 26 years old when she stepped into the role, delivering a mix of grit and grace that made Roxanne a standout presence in the show's later seasons. Her calm confidence on screen hit a constant push against an industry that rarely gave her the space she deserved. Born March 19, 1976, in Toronto, Rachel Louise Blanchard built her life around steady work, artistic commitment, and a quiet marriage to composer Jeremy Turner. Unlike many of her peers, she chose privacy over publicity, grounding herself in her Canadian roots and the emotional security of a stable partnership. Her calm, personal life became her anchor in a profession known for instability, allowing her to endure pressures that might have broken others. This stability helped her navigate Hollywood with a rare sense of inner peace. Her greatest struggle was subtle but persistent. Years of being confined to supporting roles despite her remarkable range. Performances in projects like Clueless, Fargo, and Adoration earned respect, but rarely the spotlight, forcing her to confront an industry that pigeonholed her even as it benefited from her versatility. Without major illness or public scandal, her battle became psychological. The quiet exhaustion of watching opportunities slip away simply because she did not fit Hollywood's preferred mold. Still, she pushed on, crafting a portfolio of work that eventually earned cult admiration. By 2025, Rachel Blanchard is 49 years old, continuing to act selectively while choosing projects that align with her values rather than industry trends. Her estimated net worth of $2 million reflects decades of consistent yet under-recognized labor in television and film. And while the world may not always see her as a leading star, her longevity proves that resilience sometimes shines brighter than fame itself. Andrew Keegan as Wilson West. Wilson West, the gentle, conflicted teen father who forever altered Mary Camden's emotional trajectory, was brought to life by Andrew Keegan across 20 episodes beginning in 1997. At just 18 years old, he stepped into a role requiring a maturity far beyond his years, grounding the show with a realism that resonated deeply with viewers. His performance added a quiet gravity that elevated the series during its formative seasons. And yet, no one imagined how much his own life would later echo that same search for direction. Born January 29, 1979 in Los Angeles, Andrew Keegan Haying grew up in a multicultural, creatively driven household shaped by both chaos and ambition. His relationship with Arista Ilona Satterley brought him a daughter in 2016, but the partnership eventually fractured, leaving him to navigate heartbreak while learning how to parent from a place of humility rather than fame. The emotional fallout from that separation reshaped his understanding of stability and responsibility. In private, he often admitted how fatherhood softened him in ways Hollywood never could. His greatest turmoil arrived when he shifted from acting into spiritual leadership, founding the Venice-based Full Circle community. What began as a search for meaning spiraled into controversy, with headlines branding the group everything from a new religion to a cult, drawing scrutiny he was never prepared to withstand. Legal troubles, financial strain, and public skepticism eventually forced the center to dissolve in 2017, leaving him exposed and emotionally drained. Even as he continued acting in projects like 10 Things I Hate About You and The Broken Hearts Club, the shadow of that chapter lingered over every new opportunity. Today, Andrew Keegan is 46 years old, focused on rebuilding his life through quieter choices, rooted in fatherhood, self-reflection, and resilience. His estimated net worth of $1.5 million speaks to a career marked by bright highs and very public lows, a path he now views with more acceptance than regret. And in the stillness he has chosen, he finally seems closer to the peace Wilson West once longed for on screen. Time changes everything. Careers, families, even the people we thought we knew so well. But as you've just seen, the cast of Seventh Heaven carries stories far more complex than anything ever shown on screen. Which actor's journey surprised you the most? If you want more heartbreaking, unexpected Hollywood stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us who you want to explore next.